Breaking Bad is a show that was created by Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould and is widely held as one of the best television shows of recent years. It follows a high school chemistry teacher, Walter White, and a small-time criminal, Jesse Pinkman, as they create a methamphetamine empire. It was so successful, it has since spawned a prequel, a movie sequel, and a terrible children's cartoon that we don't talk about. But what if I told you there was another film in the Breaking Bad universe? First, we need to get acquainted with two of the antagonists of the show. The twin brothers Marco and Lionel Salamanca, cousins of another character, Tuco Salamanca, who partnered with Walt and Jesse early on in the show before being killed off. The twins are mentioned as early as season 2, but don't appear until later when they come to take revenge on Walt and later his brother-in-law for Tuco's murder. Primarily, they serve as enforcers for the cartel, doing all of the dirty work for the biggest drug trafficking operation we see in Breaking Bad. But from the moment they appear on screen, they bear striking similarities to two other bald, taciturn, Hispanic cousins from a completely different kind of movie. Napoleon Dynamite is the greatest movie of all time. This cinematic masterpiece ranks as both the highest rated and highest grossing film of all time. And, as I'm going to prove in this video, it takes place as a secret predecessor to Breaking Bad. One of the key plot threads of Napoleon Dynamite is the campaign and election of Pedro Sanchez as class president of the local high school. This is the first character which we need to focus on. When we first meet Pedro, he is told directions for where his locker is, and our titular character, Napoleon, is sent to take him to it. The two start talking, and before long, Pedro is showing off his bike to Napoleon, who, interestingly, is astounded at the sheer luxury of Pedro's bicycle. Now, Pedro is from Mexico, which is a much poorer country than the US. So how did Pedro get the money for his bike? Time and time again, we see Pedro clearly being filthy rich. In this scene, he wears a fancy suit, which should be impossible for a Mexican to have. He has custom t-shirts made for his campaign, an infinite supply of keychains to buy votes, a hairpiece, this ramp, a cake, and countless other signs of his extravagant wealth. But it doesn't stop there. Perhaps the biggest piece of evidence is this. Pedro happens to be from Juarez, Mexico, the same place that the cartel Tuco and the cousins are a part of is said to be located. I think it's safe to say that Pedro Sanchez is really Pedro Salamanca. This theory is confirmed even more when these two familiar faces show up midway through the film. It all fits. They're both Mexican twins of few words, taking orders from their relatives. But perhaps the biggest similarity, they're bald. Just look at these two scenes. You'll see some parallels.
Honey, it's time to come out now.
Hey, let me borrow your bike.
No.
Come on, I'll give you some chips.
No.
Notice, the bully is terrified, likely knowing he and his family will be murdered if he doesn't comply with the cartel's demands. There are admittedly some differences. Pedro's cousins aren't as well dressed in this movie as they are in Breaking Bad, but they're still definitely the same people. But this all provides the evidence needed to paint a bigger picture of what is going on here. Pedro Salamanca, under the assumed name of Pedro Sanchez, is seeking to create a drug smuggling operation in Idaho, and is recruiting the local youths as mules, dealers, and enforcers. Pedro wastes no time in building up a crew, starting with recruiting Napoleon as his lieutenant. Why Napoleon? It's clear that Napoleon Dynamite, despite his own opinion, is probably the most skilled guy in school. Ponder these clips.
Hey, Napoleon, what'd you do all last summer again?
I told you, I spent it with my uncle in Alaska hunting wolverines.
Did you shoot any?
Yes, like 50 of them. They kept trying to attack my cousins. What the heck would you do in a situation like that?
What kind of gun did you use?
A freaking 12 gauge, what do you think?
Yeah, there's like a buttload of gangs at this school. This one gang kept wanting me to join because I'm pretty good with the bow staff. Hey, sorry I'm late. I just got done taming a wild honeymoon stallion for you guys.
Well, I have all your equipment in my locker. Should probably come get it because I can't fit my nunchucks in there anymore. Such an idiot.
Let me see what your best move is.
I'll go get it.
Jeez.
The man shoots 50 wolverines on a lark, keeps nunchucks in his locker, tames wild stallions, and is able to defeat Kip, a cage fighter in training, and Uncle Rico, the best football player of his generation. And those Napoleon can't handle, Marco and Lionel can. Pedro soon builds a small army of disaffected youths through his cult of personality, and even subtly brainwashes them to favor committing acts of violence against Summer Wheatley, his main rival. But the principal, who she's sleeping with, puts a stop to it. In the end, however, Pedro wins, and we can assume that his enemies are not long for this world. Pedro then has decades to grow his operation, until the rest of the cartel is killed off in the events of Breaking Bad, leaving Don Pedro as the world's biggest drug kingpin. And no one had any idea until it was already too late.